The moment you synchronize your brain with the quantum field, everything changes. Not gradually. Not symbolically. Fundamentally. What you once called reality begins to reorganize itself because you are no longer broadcasting fragmentation. You are no longer reacting to reflections. You are transmitting coherence. This is the shift. You were never a small observer standing inside a fixed world. You are a frequency within an intelligent field. Your brain is not a cage of thoughts but a tuning instrument, and the signal it stabilizes becomes the pattern life reflects back. Reality is not happening to you. It is responding through you. This is the law. The field does not interpret your words. It responds to your state. It mirrors your dominant frequency with precise neutrality. When your inner atmosphere is chaotic, the mirror appears distorted. When your inner signal becomes clear, the reflection reorganizes. Nothing outside needs to be forced into change. The adjustment occurs at the level of alignment. Most attempt to change their world through effort. They push. They strategize. They attempt to overpower circumstances with mental repetition. But effort without synchronization is noise. Control without coherence is resistance. Forcing repels because it declares absence. Calm alignment attracts because it confirms identity. When you synchronize your brain with the quantum field, you are not sending requests. You are selecting reality through resonance. The shift does not occur because you worked harder. It occurs because you recognized who you are within the field. Recognition is instantaneous. Effort is prolonged. Recognition says, this is already mine because it matches my frequency. And the field answers accordingly. Everything changes when you understand that the world mirrors your inner state, not your outer words. You can speak abundance while feeling contraction, and the mirror will reflect contraction. You can say you are confident while broadcasting doubt, and the reflection will match the doubt. The field responds to the signal beneath the language. Synchronization begins when you become aware of your emotional baseline and choose coherence over reaction. When thought and feeling begin to move in the same direction, the broadcast stabilizes. The mirror clarifies. Circumstances shift not because you manipulated them, but because you are no longer contradicting yourself. You are not here to control the field. You are here to harmonize with it. Control creates friction. Allowing creates flow. When you relax into alignment, the field reorganizes without struggle. The external world becomes a confirmation of your stabilized identity. This is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what you already are. A conscious frequency within an infinite field of potential. When you synchronize, you stop chasing outcomes and start embodying them. An embodiment is magnetic. The moment you recognize this, the change has already begun. If you are aligned with this frequency, subscribe and remain within it. Your brain is not a thinker. It is a tuner. You were taught that your mind exists to produce thoughts, analyze circumstances, and calculate outcomes. But thinking is only the surface function. Beneath cognition is calibration. Beneath logic is resonance. Your brain is an instrument adjusting itself to a frequency, and the frequency it stabilizes becomes the signal you transmit into the field. The quantum field does not respond to sentences. It responds to vibration. Words are symbols. Thoughts are patterns. But frequency is the instruction. You can repeat an affirmation endlessly, but if the emotional current beneath it contradicts the statement, the field reads the current, not the phrase. This is where most misunderstand creation. They attempt to change language instead of alignment. Thoughts are electrical impulses. They initiate direction. But emotion is magnetic charge. It gives the signal amplitude. A thought without emotion is weak transmission. An emotion without conscious thought is uncontrolled broadcasting. When the two merge, the signal strengthens. When they conflict, the signal fractures. Your brain constantly scans for coherence. It filters reality according to what you repeatedly feel. What you sustain emotionally becomes the station you are tuned to. And the field mirrors the station, not your preferences. If you hold the thought of abundance while feeling tension, the tension dominates the broadcast. If you think of opportunity while embodying calm certainty, the certainty amplifies the signal. The field does not evaluate which one you intended. It reflects what you stabilized. This changes how you approach alignment. You are not here to fight negative thoughts. You are here to adjust frequency. You are not here to force optimism. You are here to notice emotional tone and bring it into coherence. The tuner does not argue with static. It adjusts until clarity emerges. When you understand that your brain is tuning rather than inventing reality, you stop over-identifying with passing thoughts. A thought is not truth. It is a potential frequency. When energized by emotion, it becomes instruction. When left unsupported, it fades. This is why awareness matters. The moment you notice what you are feeling, you regain authorship of the signal. Expansion indicates alignment. Contraction indicates misalignment. These sensations are not punishments. They are feedback mechanisms guiding calibration. The field responds to the broadcast you sustain most consistently. Not the one you wish for. Not the one you occasionally imagine. The one you live in emotionally. Synchronization happens when your brain holds a thought steady and your body agrees with it. Then the transmission becomes clean. You are not trying to convince the universe. You are stabilizing your own frequency. When the signal becomes coherent, the mirror clarifies. Circumstances rearrange not because you demanded them to, but because you are tuned differently. This is not about thinking better. It is about tuning intentionally. Like the video now as a confirmation that this recognition has landed. Emotion is the code that moves the field. Thought may set direction, but emotion supplies the current. Emotion is electromagnetic instruction. It is the charge behind the signal. It is what the field reads with precision. You are not broadcasting what you say. You are broadcasting what you feel. Every emotion carries frequency. Not metaphorically. Literally. Your nervous system shifts, your heart rhythm changes, your brainwave patterns reorganize. The field does not need interpretation. It resonates with what you stabilize. This is why two people can speak the same words and generate completely different outcomes. The difference is not vocabulary. It is embodiment. Expansion is alignment. Contraction is misalignment. When you feel expansion, there is openness in the body, steadiness in the breath, clarity in perception. This sensation indicates coherence between your identity and your signal. You are tuned to a frequency that matches what you desire. The field responds effortlessly because there is no internal contradiction. When you feel contraction, there is tightening, urgency, resistance. This is not failure. It is guidance. Contraction signals that the frequency you are holding does not match the reality you prefer. It is not punishment. It is feedback. The field is neutral. Your emotional state reveals your alignment. Most attempt to override emotion with intellect. They try to outthink doubt. They attempt to repeat affirmations while ignoring the contraction underneath. But the field does not respond to intellectual arguments. It responds to embodied frequency. You cannot deceive the mirror. It reflects your internal atmosphere with exactness. Emotional embodiment directs reality more than understanding ever will. You can study metaphysics for years and still transmit scarcity. You can memorize spiritual language and still broadcast fear. The field does not reward knowledge. It mirrors coherence. This is why awareness of feeling is power. The moment you notice contraction, you are given a choice. React and amplify it, or pause and recalibrate. Allow the emotion to surface without resistance, and it begins to dissolve. Suppress it, and it intensifies. Allowing creates flow. Forcing creates friction. This principle governs every interaction with the field. Your emotions are not obstacles. They are navigation. They indicate whether you are synchronized or scattered. When you deliberately cultivate the emotional state that matches your desired identity, the instruction becomes clear. The broadcast strengthens. The mirror shifts. You are not waiting for circumstances to change before you feel aligned. You feel aligned first. Not by pretending. By embodying the frequency now. Creation happens in the present moment. The field only responds to what you are being, not what you are postponing. Emotion is the lever. Frequency is the mechanism. Recognition is the shift. When you choose expansion deliberately, you are selecting a timeline. When you sustain it, you stabilize it. Comment with the words "I am ready to anchor this timeline." To move deeper into synchronization, you must understand the mechanics of the field itself. Not as a mystical abstraction, but as a precise and neutral system. When you comprehend how it responds, confusion dissolves. Effort softens. Clarity replaces struggle. The field is a mirror, not a judge. It does not evaluate your worth. It does not measure your morality. It does not reward or punish. It reflects. With exactness. With neutrality. With consistency. What you experience externally is not a verdict. It is feedback. The field mirrors the frequency you sustain internally and presents it in physical form. If the reflection feels supportive, it is because the internal signal is coherent. If the reflection feels resistant, it is because interference exists within the broadcast. Resistance is not opposition from the universe. It is interference in the signal. When thought and emotion contradict each other, distortion occurs. When you attempt to force an outcome while feeling doubt, static enters the transmission. The mirror does not decide against you. It simply reflects the static. The distortion you witness outside is the echo of internal fragmentation. This understanding removes blame. It removes the illusion of a universe that tests you. The field does not test. It responds. It does not withhold. It matches. Imagine speaking into a canyon. The echo returns precisely what you send. If the sound is clear, the echo is clear. If the sound is broken, the echo is broken. The canyon is not judging the voice. It is reflecting it. This is how reality functions. When you push against circumstances with frustration, that frustration becomes the signal. The mirror reflects more friction. When you relax into alignment, calm becomes the signal. The mirror reflects fluidity. Not because the field prefers calm, but because calm is coherent. The neutrality of the field is its power. It means there are no exceptions. No favoritism. No hidden rules. Frequency meets frequency. Alignment meets alignment. This is the structure beneath manifestation. Understanding this shifts your relationship with challenge. Instead of asking why something is happening to you, you begin asking what frequency is being stabilized within you. Instead of reacting to the reflection, you adjust the signal. This is where sovereignty begins. Control attempts to manipulate the mirror. Alignment adjusts the broadcast. Forcing tries to rearrange the reflection directly. Allowing stabilizes the source. Only one of these creates lasting change. The field responds to internal states with precision. It cannot do otherwise. If contraction dominates, contraction echoes. If expansion stabilizes, expansion echoes. The mirror is flawless. This realization removes fear from the equation. You are not navigating a judging universe. You are interacting with a responsive one. When you take responsibility for your frequency, the reflection becomes predictable. Not because life becomes rigid, but because it becomes coherent. The field has always been responding. The difference now is awareness. Coherence is the moment thought and emotion become one signal. It is not positive thinking. It is not intense visualization. It is alignment. When the image in your mind and the feeling in your body move in the same direction, the broadcast stabilizes. The signal strengthens. The field responds with clarity because there is no contradiction within you. Most people attempt manifestation with fragmented intention. They think about what they want while emotionally rehearsing why it has not happened. They visualize success while feeling unworthiness. They declare abundance while carrying tension. This is not coherence. This is interference. Fragmented intention weakens manifestation because the signal splits. One part of you sends a request. Another part sends doubt. The field does not choose between them. It reflects the dominant frequency. If doubt carries more emotional charge than desire, doubt becomes the instruction. Coherence removes internal competition. When you think of a desired outcome and your nervous system remains calm, that is alignment. When you imagine expansion and your body feels open rather than tight, that is congruence. The thought is electrical direction. The emotion is magnetic charge. When they merge, the broadcast becomes powerful. Visualization alone is incomplete. You can see a future vividly in your mind, but if your body contracts around it, the signal is unstable. The field does not respond to mental imagery in isolation. It responds to embodied frequency. Embodiment is what transforms imagination into instruction. This is why forcing emotion does not work. Pretending to feel confident while suppressing fear only creates more fragmentation. Coherence is not achieved by denial. It is achieved by awareness and gradual calibration. You acknowledge the contraction without judgment, allow it to soften, and then intentionally stabilize a feeling that matches your desired identity. Not by pressure. By alignment. When coherence forms, effort decreases. You no longer chase the outcome because internally it feels natural. There is steadiness. Certainty without urgency. The signal becomes clean. And a clean signal reorganizes the mirror efficiently. Coherence also simplifies decision-making. When thought and emotion agree, clarity arises. When they disagree, confusion appears. Confusion is not lack of intelligence. It is lack of alignment. Once the internal broadcast becomes unified, external pathways begin to reveal themselves. This is not mystical exaggeration. It is structural law. A fragmented signal produces fragmented reflection. A unified signal produces organized reflection. The field cannot respond to what you occasionally imagine. It responds to what you consistently embody. You do not need to amplify desire. You need to harmonize it. When the image in your mind and the feeling in your body are indistinguishable, synchronization begins. When your inner world stops arguing with itself, reality stops appearing conflicted. Coherence is not intensity. It is stability. And stability is magnetic. There is a polarity at the center of creation that most misunderstand. It is the polarity between force and receptivity. Between gripping and allowing. Between urgency and certainty. When you understand this polarity, synchronization becomes effortless. Forcing repels. Allowing attracts. Force is not strength. It is tension. It is the attempt to bend reality through pressure. When you force an outcome, your nervous system tightens. Your thoughts accelerate. Your body broadcasts urgency. And urgency is not a signal of confidence. It is a signal of absence. Urgency declares that what you desire is not here. It amplifies the gap between you and the outcome. Even if your words claim certainty, the emotional current underneath says it is missing. The field reads the current. It mirrors the absence. The harder you push, the more resistance appears. This is not punishment. It is polarity. Force operates from fear of not having. It attempts to control timing, circumstances, and people. It tries to rearrange reflections without stabilizing the source. But the field does not respond to pressure. It responds to frequency. And pressure is unstable. Allowing is different. Allowing is not passive waiting. It is not indifference. It is stabilized identity. It is the calm certainty that what matches your frequency must organize around you. There is no rush because there is no doubt. There is no grasping because there is no internal contradiction. Calm certainty signals alignment. When you hold a desire and your body remains relaxed, you are not signaling absence. You are signaling congruence. The outcome feels natural rather than distant. The signal becomes steady. And steady signals reorganize the mirror efficiently. Allowing means you stop interfering with your own broadcast. You release the need to monitor every movement. You stop checking for evidence. You stop measuring progress. Not because you gave up, but because you recognize that creation happens in the present frequency, not in obsessive observation. Force says it must happen now or something is wrong. Allowing says it is already aligned and unfolding. One repels because it broadcasts lack. The other attracts because it broadcasts completeness. This is why control creates resistance. When you attempt to dictate every detail, you introduce static. You fracture coherence. But when you align with the feeling of the fulfilled state and let the field coordinate the details, the process becomes fluid. Allowing is active alignment. It is the decision to remain coherent even when external proof has not yet appeared. It is emotional steadiness in the absence of evidence. It is trust born from understanding mechanics. You are not surrendering desire. You are stabilizing it. When you shift from force to allowing, you feel the difference immediately. The body softens. The breath deepens. The signal clarifies. And the field, which has always been listening, responds accordingly. Not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. To move deeper into synchronization, you must dissolve one of the most persistent illusions of the mind, control. Not practical decision-making. Not conscious direction. But the compulsive need to grip outcomes in order to feel safe. This is where distortion begins. Control is static in the signal. When you try to control reality, the impulse is rarely rooted in confidence. It is rooted in fear. Fear that something will not happen. Fear that something will be lost. Fear that uncertainty cannot be trusted. And fear carries contraction. Contraction disrupts coherence. Imagine a clear radio transmission. When the frequency is stable, the sound is sharp and uninterrupted. But introduce static, and the message becomes distorted. Control is that static. It interferes with the broadcast you are attempting to stabilize. You may hold a vision clearly in your mind. You may even feel aligned for a moment. But the instant you begin asking how it will happen, when it will happen, or whether it is happening fast enough, static enters. The signal fractures. The body tightens. Urgency reappears. Control attempts to micromanage the mirror instead of stabilizing the source. This is the distortion. Instead of adjusting internal frequency, control tries to rearrange external reflections. It monitors circumstances obsessively. It searches for signs. It reacts to delays. Each reaction introduces more interference. The clearer you attempt to force the outcome, the noisier the signal becomes. Control feels powerful in the moment because it gives the illusion of action. But energetically, it broadcasts distrust. And distrust signals misalignment. The field responds not to your effort, but to your emotional baseline. If your baseline is fear disguised as strategy, the mirror reflects instability. Dissolving control does not mean abandoning intention. It means releasing the fear that fuels the gripping. It means stabilizing your identity without needing constant proof. When fear softens, the static fades. The transmission becomes clean again. This is why allowing is strength. It is not passive. It is precise. It is the decision to remain coherent even when outcomes are still organizing. It is emotional steadiness without external confirmation. When control dissolves, something subtle shifts. The nervous system relaxes. The breath deepens. The urgency quiets. And in that quiet, synchronization strengthens. The field can now respond to a stable broadcast rather than a fluctuating one. You were never meant to dominate reality. You were meant to harmonize with it. Harmony requires clarity, not force. Trust, not tension. Alignment, not interference. The moment you release the need to grip, the signal clarifies. And when the signal clarifies, the reflection reorganizes naturally. Control creates static. Alignment restores the transmission. This is where true power begins. Contrast is not an interruption of your path. It is the field clarifying your preference. Most perceive unwanted experiences as obstacles, as evidence of misfortune, as signs that alignment has failed. But contrast is not a block. It is refinement. It sharpens the edges of desire. It reveals what you truly prefer by showing you what you do not. Without contrast, preference remains vague, undefined, passive. When you encounter what feels misaligned, something within you activates. Clarity emerges. You recognize what resonates and what does not. That recognition is expansion. Contrast is not the opposite of alignment. It is the catalyst for deeper alignment. When contraction appears, it is easy to react, to resist, to label the moment as wrong. But reaction amplifies the contraction. Reaction broadcasts frustration. And frustration becomes the signal. The field then mirrors more of the same frequency. The power is not in avoiding contrast. The power is in extracting clarity from it. Instead of asking why this is happening, ask what this is refining. Instead of collapsing into irritation, pause and observe what preference is becoming clearer. Every unwanted condition contains information. It tells you what you are no longer available for. It reveals the identity you are outgrowing. Contrast sharpens alignment because it forces definition. It pushes you to choose deliberately rather than drift unconsciously. It invites you to stabilize a new frequency instead of tolerating an old one. The key is emotional neutrality. You do not need to celebrate contrast. You simply need to stop fighting it. The moment you stop labeling it as failure, it transforms into guidance. Contraction becomes a signal, not a sentence. It indicates misalignment, not destiny. This is where many lose synchronization. They encounter contrast and interpret it as proof that the process is not working. But the field is not working against you. It is revealing the gap between your stabilized frequency and your declared desire. That revelation is useful. When you extract clarity instead of reacting emotionally, the signal adjusts quickly. You feel the preference more strongly. You sense the new identity forming. And as you stabilize that refined preference emotionally, the broadcast strengthens. Contrast refines desire. Alignment stabilizes it. Creation happens in the present moment through the frequency you hold after clarity emerges. If you linger in reaction, you amplify what you dislike. If you extract the lesson and return to coherence, you accelerate realignment. The field does not send contrast to punish. It reflects internal evolution. Sometimes you only recognize what you want when you encounter what you do not. This is precision, not chaos. When you begin to see contrast as refinement rather than resistance, you stop fearing it. You stop collapsing into contraction. You allow clarity to sharpen you instead of harden you. Contrast does not block the path. It defines it. And once defined, alignment becomes stronger than ever. Creation only happens now. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Not when circumstances improve. Not when evidence appears. The only point of power is this present moment. The only place synchronization can occur is here. The past feels causal because memory is vivid. The future feels influential because anticipation is strong. But both are mental projections occurring now. The field does not respond to what was. It does not respond to what might be. It responds to the frequency you are stabilizing in this instant. You cannot transmit from the past. You cannot broadcast from the future. You can only emit a signal now. Many attempt to create by revisiting old stories. They analyze previous failures. They rehearse former disappointments. They justify current limitations through history. But when you relive the past emotionally, you are not referencing it. You are reactivating it. The field reads the emotional charge, not the timeline label. If you feel yesterday's contraction now, the broadcast is contraction now. Others attempt to create by projecting into the future. They say it will happen one day. They imagine fulfillment as distant. They feel hope mixed with waiting. But waiting is not alignment. Waiting is subtle postponement. It signals that the desired state is not present. And the field mirrors the signal of not yet. Synchronization requires immediacy. If you desire abundance, the emotional frequency of sufficiency must be stabilized now. If you desire connection, the emotional frequency of wholeness must be embodied now. Not after evidence. Not once conditions shift. Now. This is not denial of circumstance. It is recognition of mechanics. The mirror only reflects what stands before it. And what stands before it is your current state of being. Time, as you experience it, is a sequence of present moments. Each moment contains a signal. Each signal selects a trajectory. When you change your frequency now, you alter the trajectory now. The shift does not require years. It requires alignment in this instant. The illusion of future creation keeps power perpetually out of reach. It convinces you that something external must change before you can feel different. But the law operates in reverse. Feeling different now reorganizes what appears next. Creation is not a future event. It is a present calibration. When you stabilize expansion in the middle of uncertainty, you are creating. When you choose coherence despite old narratives, you are creating. When you release contraction and return to alignment, you are creating. Every synchronized moment selects a new unfolding. You do not need to rewrite your past. You need to shift your present. The past dissolves as an active force when it is no longer emotionally energized now. The future reorganizes when the current signal changes. This is why urgency disrupts creation. It pulls you out of presence. It fixates on when instead of what you are being. But the field does not respond to timelines. It responds to frequency. And frequency only exists now. Synchronize here. Everything else follows. To understand how synchronization reshapes reality, you must now understand timelines. Not as science fiction. Not as fantasy. But as vibrational pathways constantly available within the field. This is the mechanics of trajectory. Timelines are chosen by identity. You do not build reality piece by piece in a linear sequence. You select it through resonance. Every possible version of your life exists as potential within the quantum field. What determines which one unfolds is not effort. It is who you are being. Identity is stabilized frequency. When you define yourself as limited, uncertain, or unworthy, that identity emits a consistent signal. The field responds by organizing circumstances that match it. Not to trap you. To mirror you. When you define yourself as capable, aligned, or abundant, the signal shifts. And with it, the trajectory shifts. This is why surface-level change rarely lasts. If identity remains unchanged, the signal returns to its previous baseline. The timeline recalibrates accordingly. You may temporarily override behavior, but unless the emotional self-concept stabilizes, the broadcast defaults. Reality is not constructed through forceful progression. It is selected through vibrational compatibility. Imagine standing in a vast field of radio frequencies. Each station represents a different version of your life. You do not create the station. You tune to it. When your internal frequency matches a specific station, that version becomes audible, clear, dominant. The same applies to timelines. When you shift identity, you shift resonance. When resonance shifts, the trajectory reorganizes. Opportunities appear that were previously invisible. Decisions feel different. Reactions change. What once seemed aligned begins to fall away. Not because the world transformed randomly, but because you are tuned differently. This is why small internal shifts can produce large external changes. The mechanism is not gradual construction. It is instantaneous selection at the vibrational level, followed by physical unfolding in sequence. If you continue to identify as someone waiting, you select a timeline where waiting continues. If you identify as someone already aligned, you select a trajectory where alignment confirms itself. Identity is not a label you repeat. It is a frequency you embody. Effort attempts to force a future while maintaining an old identity. Synchronization dissolves that conflict. You become the version of yourself for whom the desired reality is natural. And the field reorganizes accordingly. There is no need to chase a better future. There is only a need to stabilize a different identity now. The moment identity shifts, selection shifts. The unfolding follows. This is not imagination. It is resonance law. You are not moving through time toward a goal. You are tuning into a version of reality that already matches who you are being. Every moment of coherence selects a new path. Every moment of contraction selects another. Timelines are not earned. They are matched. And identity is the key. Your brain is not separate from the field. It is the biological interface through which frequency becomes structure. What you repeatedly feel does not remain abstract. It becomes wired. It becomes patterned. It becomes you. This is where neuroscience and metaphysics converge. Every sustained emotional state strengthens specific neural pathways. When you repeatedly experience fear, the brain reinforces circuits that anticipate threat. When you repeatedly embody calm certainty, circuits associated with regulation and clarity strengthen instead. Neurons that fire together wire together. Frequency becomes structure. This is not metaphor. It is mechanism. The emotional states you stabilize send chemical signals through the body. Hormones shift. Synapses strengthen. The brain adapts to the frequency you sustain most often. Over time, what began as a temporary state becomes a baseline identity. The broadcast stabilizes not only energetically, but biologically. This is why repetition matters. Not repetition of words, but repetition of embodied emotion. If you repeatedly return to contraction, the brain becomes efficient at producing contraction. It anticipates it. It defaults to it. The signal becomes automatic. The field mirrors the baseline. If you repeatedly return to expansion, even in small moments, the brain reorganizes around expansion. Calm becomes easier. Confidence becomes natural. The signal stabilizes. You are not fighting your biology when you shift frequency. You are retraining it. The brain's plasticity means it is always adapting to dominant input. If urgency dominates, urgency wires in. If coherence dominates, coherence wires in. Over time, the emotional state you once practiced deliberately becomes effortless. The identity shifts from intentional to automatic. This is synchronization embodied. When your internal frequency stabilizes long enough, the brain reflects it structurally. Neural pathways align with the signal. Your reactions change without force. Your decisions feel different without overthinking. The new identity no longer feels like effort. It feels like you. This is why temporary motivation fades. If the emotional state is not sustained long enough to rewire circuitry, the brain returns to its familiar baseline. The signal weakens. The old timeline reasserts itself. But when you consistently embody a new frequency, even before external confirmation appears, the brain adapts. Frequency becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes trajectory. The field responds to sustained coherence, not momentary spikes. And the brain ensures that what you sustain becomes easier to sustain again. This feedback loop is powerful. It can anchor limitation or stabilize expansion. The difference is awareness. You are not at the mercy of old wiring. You are the one selecting which circuits to reinforce through repeated emotional alignment. Each time you choose expansion over contraction, even subtly, you strengthen a different pathway. Each time you return to calm certainty instead of urgency, you stabilize a new baseline. Eventually, the frequency no longer feels practiced. It feels natural. This is when synchronization deepens. The biology reflects the broadcast. And the broadcast becomes who you are. Effort is the language of becoming. Recognition is the language of being. Most people approach transformation as a process that requires time, discipline, and sustained struggle. They believe they must gradually turn into the version of themselves who is aligned. They attempt to force progress step by step, measuring growth in increments. But effort operates from the assumption that you are not yet who you need to be. Recognition dissolves that assumption instantly. Transformation does not occur because enough time has passed. It occurs because identity has shifted. And identity shifts the moment you acknowledge it as true. Not when others confirm it. Not when evidence appears. When you recognize it internally. Effort says, I will become confident. Recognition says, I am confidence remembering itself. Effort says, I must attract abundance. Recognition says, I am aligned with abundance now. The difference is subtle in language, but absolute in frequency. The field does not respond to gradual self-improvement. It responds to stabilized identity. And identity is not built through strain. It is claimed through acknowledgement. When you recognize yourself as the version who is already coherent, your nervous system reorganizes. The emotional baseline adjusts. The signal shifts immediately. The mirror begins recalibrating at once, even if physical evidence unfolds sequentially. Recognition collapses delay. It is not pretending. It is not denial. It is clarity. It is seeing through the illusion that you were ever separate from the version of you that you seek to become. That version is not in the future. It is a frequency available now. The moment you identify with it fully, you tune to it. This is why some shifts feel instantaneous. A realization lands. A perception changes. And suddenly, what once felt heavy feels irrelevant. Old fears lose intensity. Certain behaviors fall away without effort. This is energetic reorganization. The brain follows identity. The field follows frequency. When recognition stabilizes, both reorganize in alignment. Time is often mistaken as the cause of transformation. In truth, time simply reveals what identity has already selected. The internal shift is immediate. The external unfolding reflects that shift across moments. You do not need years to become aligned. You need clarity in this moment. Effort keeps you measuring distance. Recognition eliminates distance. Effort strains toward a goal. Recognition stands in completion. Effort asks how long. Recognition declares now. This does not mean you stop acting. It means your actions arise from coherence rather than insecurity. Decisions become cleaner. Reactions become steadier. The energy behind movement changes. Recognition is the shift because it alters the broadcast at its source. The moment you acknowledge who you truly are within the field, the signal stabilizes accordingly. The mirror begins to adjust. You are not becoming. You are remembering. And in that remembrance, everything reorganizes. There comes a point in this unfolding where synchronization is no longer something you practice. It becomes something you realize. The final illusion to dissolve is the idea that you are inside the field, attempting to influence it from within. This is where the ultimate shift occurs. You are not in the field. You are the field. From the beginning, you were taught to see yourself as a body moving through a world. A mind interacting with external forces. A small consciousness navigating a vast universe. But this perspective creates separation. And separation creates effort. The truth is simpler and more expansive. What you call the quantum field is not something outside you responding from a distance. It is the underlying fabric of your own awareness. The intelligence that organizes reality is the same intelligence that is aware through you right now. Synchronization is not about connecting to something external. It is about remembering that there was never a divide. When you believe you are separate, you attempt to send signals outward. You try to influence circumstances from a position of distance. You negotiate with reality. You hope it listens. But when you recognize that you are the field expressing itself locally, everything changes. There is no distance to bridge. There is no universe to convince. There is only frequency stabilizing within itself. Consciousness is primary. Form is secondary. Your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions arise within awareness. The world you experience arises within the same awareness. The division is conceptual, not actual. When you stabilize coherence internally, it is not because you are sending instructions to something beyond you. It is because the field is reorganizing within itself. The mirror and the source are the same substance. This dissolves fear. If you are the field, then nothing is happening outside your participation. There is no random opposition. No external judgment. Only feedback within a unified system of consciousness. Synchronization becomes remembrance. You are not aligning with something greater. You are aligning with yourself at the deepest level. The identity you stabilize shapes the experience that unfolds, not because you are manipulating reality, but because reality is consciousness expressing patterns. Change the pattern, and expression changes. When you feel expansion, it is the field recognizing its own coherence. When you feel contraction, it is the field signaling internal misalignment. These sensations are not personal struggles. They are movements within a unified whole. The illusion of separation created effort. The recognition of unity restores ease. You do not need to reach outward. You need to settle inward. Not to withdraw from life, but to recognize that life is arising within you as much as you are arising within it. You are not a signal trying to penetrate a distant universe. You are the universe signaling through a focused point of awareness. And when this becomes clear, synchronization is no longer something you attempt. It is what you are. Living as a stabilized frequency is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is steady. The transformation is subtle at first, then undeniable. When identity remains coherent, daily life begins to feel different, not because circumstances immediately become perfect, but because your relationship to them shifts completely. When frequency is sustained, reaction decreases. Situations that once triggered contraction lose their intensity. Not because challenges disappear, but because your baseline no longer fluctuates with every external movement. Stability becomes your center. You respond instead of react. You observe instead of collapse. Coherence held over time becomes emotional gravity. When identity is clear, contrast does not destabilize you. It informs you. You experience unwanted moments without absorbing them into your sense of self. You extract clarity and return to alignment quickly. The recovery becomes faster. The signal becomes cleaner. This is stability under contrast. Before stabilization, a single disruption could alter your entire emotional state. One delay could trigger doubt. One disagreement could spark insecurity. But when frequency is sustained, external events lose their power to redefine you. They become temporary ripples on a deeper current. The current remains steady. Reality becomes fluid and responsive when your broadcast stops oscillating. When your internal state is consistent, the mirror organizes more smoothly. Opportunities appear with less friction. Interactions feel less forced. Decisions carry clarity rather than confusion. This is not because life becomes free of variation. It is because variation no longer shakes your identity. A stabilized frequency creates predictability in the field's response. Not rigid predictability, but coherent reflection. You begin to notice patterns aligning naturally. Conversations unfold with ease. Timing feels precise. What once required effort begins to require presence. Presence replaces pressure. When identity remains coherent, you stop checking whether it is working. The need for constant validation dissolves. You trust the process because you understand the mechanics. The signal is steady. The field is responsive. The unfolding is inevitable. Daily life becomes less about control and more about calibration. If contraction arises, you notice it early and adjust. If expansion emerges, you sustain it deliberately. Small corrections prevent large distortions. Alignment becomes maintenance rather than struggle. You no longer attempt to dominate circumstances. You harmonize with them. You move with the current instead of against it. Even ambition feels different. It becomes inspired movement rather than anxious striving. Living as a stabilized frequency also transforms perception. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw limitation. This is not forced optimism. It is resonance. You are tuned to a station where solutions are visible. And because the broadcast is consistent, the reflection remains coherent. Stability is power. Not aggressive power. Not controlling power. Quiet power. The kind that does not need to prove itself because it is rooted in identity. When frequency is sustained, reality responds with increasing fluidity. Not because you demand it, but because you are no longer contradicting yourself. Coherence becomes natural. And life begins to mirror that naturalness effortlessly. When synchronization becomes your natural state, nothing outside needs to announce the shift. There is no dramatic threshold you cross. No external validation required. The transformation is internal, and because it is internal, it is foundational. Everything changes because you have stabilized who you are. You no longer attempt to influence the field. You no longer try to correct reflections. You understand that reality mirrors your inner state with precision, and so your focus remains on alignment. Not obsessively. Naturally. At the beginning, synchronization felt like practice. You monitored your emotions. You noticed contraction. You adjusted your thoughts. You reminded yourself that the present moment was the only creative point. You learned that force repels and allowing attracts. You recognized that timelines are chosen by identity. You began to see that the field is not separate from you. Now it is no longer effort. Identity has stabilized. When identity stabilizes, the signal becomes consistent. When the signal becomes consistent, the mirror becomes predictable. Not rigid. Predictable in coherence. Life reflects the frequency you sustain because there is no competing broadcast beneath it. You are no longer trying to become aligned. You are aligned. Contrast still appears, but it does not destabilize you. It refines you. Challenges still arise, but they do not redefine you. The present moment is no longer a concept you remember occasionally. It is where you live. Creation is not something you attempt in the future. It is something you embody now. The urgency that once fueled effort dissolves. Calm certainty replaces it. You understand that forcing only introduced static. You understand that control fractured coherence. You understand that recognition shifted everything instantly. These are no longer ideas. They are lived mechanics. You do not chase outcomes. You hold identity. You do not manipulate circumstances. You stabilize frequency. You do not wait for evidence. You embody alignment. And because of this, reality responds differently. Opportunities feel synchronized. Timing feels precise. Interactions feel fluid. Not because the world suddenly favors you, but because you are no longer broadcasting contradiction. The brain has adapted. The emotional baseline has shifted. The frequency is sustained without strain. What once required awareness now feels natural. This is the true shift. When synchronization is no longer something you remember to do, but something you are. Everything changes because you changed at the level of identity. The field did not need to be convinced. It only needed a coherent signal. And now the signal is steady. This is not the end of growth. It is the end of resistance. You are not becoming the aligned version of yourself. You are living as it. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes.